kind of country do we live in? What kind of party is this Republican Party that is unwilling to solve this problem, which is staring Americans in the face, frightening Americans from one end of the country to the other? And yet Republicans, what are they doing about it? Nothing. They're on vacation. It's unacceptable and morally repugnant.
The Lizard King lying like a psychopathic Soviet Union relic. What a creep. What a lizard. He's a reptile person, isn't he? From another galaxy, I think he is. Yeah, they shut the government down. They inflict Obamacare on us. They demand $1 trillion bailout every few minutes, legislatively speaking. And when you refuse to be subjected to their gun-to-the-head shakedown, their criminal extortion, then they come out and tell you are destroying healthcare. They are the ones destroying healthcare. Again, it's the old Russian playbook. Whatever you are guilty of, you accuse the other guy of doing. They learned that from the Soviet Union, the Democrat Party did, and it works with them today, the filthies. So they go on Morning Joke and peddle their lunacy. I got to tell you, there is a fun piece that I read this morning from the Washington Reporter. The Washington Reporter. And I will confess that it's by my friend Matthew Foldy, who is great fun, and we work together at Newsmax and so on. In fact, we've gotten calls about my not being on Newsmax. Listeners have called in to ask about my not being on Newsmax for a week now, and I may address that, and I know I will at some point. Whether I address that today or not remains to be seen. But back to the Washington Reporter, and the story today in the Washington Reporter.news by my friend Matthew Foldy, who's a ton of fun every day. And he did an interview with Republican Congressman Mark Alford, House member Mark Alford. Now, and the headline is, Representative Mark Alford draws a line in the sand on Schumer shutdown. Quote, there's nothing to negotiate. That's the headline. And the subheadline, Representative Mark Alford explains to the Washington Reporter why he has faith in Speaker Mike Johnson's moves during the Schumer shutdown. And Matthew Foldy writes, based on his interview with the good congressman out of Missouri, says, as the Schumer shutdown careens toward its second month, Representative Mark Alford, the Republican from Missouri, has a simple message for Senate Democrats and their allies in the media who are hoping that House Republicans will cave. He writes, Senator Chuck Schumer, D. New York, and Representative Hakeem Jeffries, D. New York, you know that they grew up blocks from one another? The two Democrat leaders, the Democrat leader in the House, Democrat leader in the Senate, grew up blocks from each other in Brooklyn, and they're both criminals. It's not that everybody from Brooklyn is a criminal, just the ones that go into Democrat politics. But Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries said, this is great, want America to feel the pain so that they can put pressure on the Republicans to negotiate. Mark Alford, the congressman from Missouri, told the Washington Reporter in an interview. But there is nothing to negotiate, the congressman said. And the sooner that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries realize that, the better off America will be. Congressman Mark Alford explained his reasoning, attacking the uninformed, ill-informed people in the media who don't have the basic knowledge of how our appropriations process works. In the process, and it's true, of course, he went on to show why he is the chairman of the Communications Task Force for the Republican Study Committee, and why he's been on a blitz with both traditional and new media outlets. They want us to compromise or negotiate, Congressman Mark Alford explained. Can you compromise? Can't you negotiate? Can't you meet somewhere in the middle? No, there's nothing to negotiate. That's what Chuck Schumer doesn't understand. And the media is starting to really come around. Even some of the national media over the weekend were talking about how Democrats already approved this continuing resolution 9 times before. There's nothing different. Only thing we added, Alford noted, was security money for the 3 branches of government, which unfortunately we need now because we live in such a heightened state of disjointedness and people trying to do harm to those they disagree with, right? But that was it. And there's really nothing to negotiate, the congressman said. Now, this is kind of fun. And it turns out, and I only learned this yesterday, that my brother Daniel, who's a TV news reporter in San Diego, California, worked with, years ago, with the Congressman, Mark Alford, when Congressman Mark Alford was a TV news guy in Austin, Texas, and my brother Daniel was a TV man in Austin, Texas. And they're friends from back then. And I texted my brother Daniel yesterday in San Diego, and he's like, oh, yeah, I know Mark. Mark's a great guy. Yeah, Mark, great stuff. So I just learned that yesterday. And then this article today in the Washington Reporter with Mark Alford, fun stuff. And between, with an intermediary, I said, well, we should get together and have a beer and talk about all that Congressy stuff that you guys do, things like that, Congressy stuff. So that's fun. There's nothing to negotiate. And while Alford maintains that Democrats are to blame for the ongoing shutdowns, pretty easy to maintain that he doesn't see ending anytime soon, does not see it ending anytime soon. He's been traversing all over his district in Missouri, hosting dozens of events with veterans, doctors, small business owners, and more. His district is home to many of the 33,000 federal workers in Kansas City, federal employees, and he cautioned that those people and others start to miss paychecks. The Schumer shutdown will have a trickle-down effect that could devastate Main Street. And that's the Democrats are fine with all of that. They genuinely are. They, what is the turn of phrase? They don't give a flying hoot about you. I see I'm keeping it like radio friendly. Isn't that good? Fun, fun, fun. So we've got that going for us. Yes, sir. Now, interestingly, there's been some talk about the Republicans, the nuclear option. They love dramatic terminology like that in Washington. The nuclear option, which is to bypass the filibuster requiring 60 votes in the Senate to get it through. The Democrats did that under Harry Reid to give the bum's rush to all of the Obama federal judiciary nominees, and they cheated, they robbed, they stole. And you may remember Mitch McConnell, the turtle boy. He said, he murmured, he mumbled, "You're going to live to regret this maybe sooner than you think." That's my Mitch McConnell, because I can't speak any more softly than that. But Mitch McConnell warned them, and then Donald Trump came in, and they said, oh, you guys said you don't need 60 votes for judicial nominees anymore, so now Donald Trump gets 3 appointments to the Supreme Court.
The rest of you guys in the conference should know better. If you want to play games, set yet another precedent that you'll no doubt come to regret. Say to my friends on the other side of the aisle, you'll regret this, and you may regret it a lot sooner than you think.
That was when the Democrats nuked the filibuster, as it's called, in the Senate. Senate rules can be very complex and arcane. And now there's an interesting item today. The Hill in Washington, I was reading from another story, and then the Speaker of the House was citing the same story at his press conference this morning as well. The Hill is now reporting that John Fetterman, the Democrat senator of Pennsylvania, who is a peculiar case, supports the idea of Senate Republicans nuking the filibuster in order to reopen the government. So now, Democrat senator from Pennsylvania says he supports the Senate Republicans nuking the filibuster to reopen the government, noting that Democrats have run in getting rid of the filibuster, and that's 100% true, of course. But that's what the Hill is reporting. And it's a Senate rule, and the Democrats have blown it up in the past. Wah, wah, wah. And now you want to reopen the government? Use the Democrat playbook against them. Again. They're crooks. They're criminals. And when the most sensible person is, of all people, John Fetterman, who is, a head case, and he's a trip in all kinds of ways. His arms covered with tattoos, his shaved head, his bizarro clothing choices, and all of that good stuff. Fetterman. So now Fetterman is saying, and I heard a Republican this morning saying the same thing, saying, well, now the Senate's going to have to look at getting rid of the filibuster, which, as the Senate is supposed to be the saucer that cools the overheated cup of coffee in our legislative process. Aren't they amazing? All right, let me go back to a bit of audio. Let's go to soundbite number 2. So we started back there, way back in the big numbers, in the 20s, and now we're back to number 2. Speaker of the House, this was before his press conference this morning from yesterday. The Speaker of the House talking about the Democrats.
They've dug their heels in. They're doing what they know to be wrong. And this is the first time in history that any party has shut the government down over a clean, nonpartisan CR. They do not care. They're afraid of that base, and that's why all this is happening right now.
And it's the violent mob. They dug their high heels, their Manolo Blanca high heels. They dug their spiked heels in. They're all cross-dressers. And the clean and all this CR, it's a continuing resolution that would fund the government. And the Democrats, they got Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Every time I look at Hakeem Jeffries now, I see a criminal. When I look at Schumer, I see a lizard, and the Lizard King, of course, a reptilian. Hakeem Jeffries is the Democrat leader in the House of Representatives. And if the Democrats were in charge, he'd be the Speaker of the House. And he might as well be part of Chairman Mao's inner circle. This guy has got crime written all over his face. It's not just being from Brooklyn. It's not just being a New Yorker. But he said, hey, first of all, it's already passed through the House, so asking him anything is kind of pointless. But they're now talking about new legislation to open the government, and he's saying, yeah, but it doesn't have the kitchen sink in there. It doesn't have everything we want. It doesn't have our whole wish list in there. And, you're not in charge of the House. The Republicans are. You're not in charge of the Senate. The Republicans are. You're not in charge of the White House. A Republican is. And Hakeem Jeffries, he's got a gun to the head of the baby. He's pulled the hammer back, and he's a shakedown gangster. Like he makes the Corleones look like mellow next-door neighbors.
It's my understanding that is not a comprehensive bill that actually is designed to reopen the government while at the same time addressing the issues that need to be confronted on behalf of the American people. So it's not legislation that I support because it appears to be more like a political ploy to pick and choose.
To pick and choose. You mean the Republicans in charge of the House can pick and choose what's in the bill, and they've offered to work with you constantly. Isn't that amazing? And Hakeem Jeffries, he's got a shopping list of things. Well, first, we've got to include in the bill that there is free health care for everybody, and we eradicate poverty on the planet Earth. And we have to do circumcisions in Central Africa at U.S. taxpayer expense. Isn't that completely ridiculous? Yesterday, Democrat Senator Chris Murphy. Let's go to Democrat Senator Chris Murphy. He was at the No Kings rally, funded by billionaire front groups and the money siphoned through corrupt front groups. Here's Democrat Senator Chris Murphy. And it's the end of democracy. It's civil war.
We are not on the verge of an authoritarian takeover. We are in the middle of an authoritarian takeover. But Trump has not won.
They cheer.
Our democracy is in peril, but it can be saved. It is up to us to save us.
It's up to us to save us. And then they stormed the White House. It is, I got to tell you, it's not, there's a danger of an authoritarian takeover. We're in the middle of an authoritarian takeover. This fascist Nazi crossdresser, Chris Murphy, this is the rhetoric that they use. Trump's already been shot once. All right? They just found a sniper perch in a tree where he gets on Air Force One in Florida. And they're inciting violence and war in the United States. But then he said, it's up to us to save us. That was my favorite, and it reminded us naturally of Barack Hussein Obama.
Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for.
And they all go wild. It's a mental illness. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And Chris Murphy on Saturday at the billionaire-funded fraud show on the Mall in Washington. It's up to us to save us. And the crowd goes wild. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We're going to need to build a really, really big mental institution.
It is up to us to save us.
Police officer, a friend of mine, just sent me a selfie, a picture of himself in front of the new pot shop, the new marijuana shop, 2 blocks from the White House in Washington, with posters of George Washington and Blunt, D.C., open now open. Pot store with all kinds of posters, big banner. Raise the kids, stoned. That way they'll be Democrats when they grow up, for sure. All right, let's grab a phone call, Michael. Let's go to Patrick calling from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Patrick, you are on the Chris Plante Show.
Yes, Chris. Great to hear you again today. You know, I'm driving through D.C. right now, and I was thinking of a reason why I think the Democrats are going to end this shutdown soon, and it's because outside of the bubble of Washington, D.C., not a lot of people are being affected by this shutdown. And I think more and more they're realizing we don't need all this government, all this especially non-essential government. And that is the Democrats' worst nightmare, that Americans would ever think they don't need the government.
Well, that is well stated, I would say, Patrick. And one of the funny terms that emerges every time we have one of these government shutdowns is non-essential personnel. And that comes up every time. Business owners, from the people that run General Motors to the people that run the corner store, look at it and say, well, wait a minute, how many non-essential personnel do we have? Because I'm paying a lot in taxes every paycheck, every year, my whole adult lifetime, paying a lot in taxes to fund an organization that would never function, certainly in the private market, in the world of private business, because in private business you don't have a lot of non-essential employees. And we find out every time, Patrick, that there are who knows how many hundreds of thousands that the government has hired on, and they're ever expanding. It's their nature to expand and expand with no limits. And every now and then we see these non-essential, and people scratch that. And Republicans are not great at packaging this up and messaging as a verb. They should hire me and pay me a lot of money. I could help them out a lot. But non-essential, how many non-essential government employees we have, and who hired them? J.D. Vance in Israel today, holding a press conference there about peace in the Arab world. Could happen. But in the meantime, I've got to say, I want to go back to the telephones here. And I go where Jasmine tells me, and I'll tell you what Jasmine has recommended right now, I think everyone wants to listen to. If you have the kids with you, maybe cover their ears just a little bit. But let's go to the phones. Let's go to Henry, calling from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Henri, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Chris, you're the absolute best, and I think I just may have coined a new term for the Lizard King. He is a very dysfunctional lizard. Therefore, he has erectile dysfunction.
See, I saw that. I saw that on the big board, and Jasmine put you on the top of the field. And I said, I've got to say, Henry, I looked at it on the big board here, on the screen, and it said, let's call Chuck Schumer a reptile dysfunction. And I said to Michael, yeah. I started to look at that, and then I read it out loud to Michael, and the moment I read it out loud, I knew instantly what you're talking. So he's reptile dysfunction. Because he's the lizard king, and he's a reptilian. He's a leopard.
He has dysfunction He has dysfunction of the other appendage.
Therefore, he is. We should refer to him as every time they shut the government down because of Schumer. It's another case of reptile dysfunction.
Exactly.
See? There it is.
And it was absolutely you that triggered that. I was coming home from the local hardware store, and you said he was reptilian, and I said he is so dysfunctional. I said that to myself. He's so dysfunctional, and I said, wait a minute, reptile and dysfunction. It has to be.
It is. We're gonna have to make Schumer T-shirts, I think. With it's true. Washington D.C. What we're suffering from right now with the government shutdown is another instance of reptile dysfunction because of the Schumer shutdown. The Schumer shutdown is an example of reptile dysfunction. I think that's great.
And I think I coined it, but it was with your help.
Well, you definitely coined it,
help.
Henry. It's your line. It's your joke.
I wish I could come and see you in D.C., but I live way over here in the very red state of Tennessee, and we just love you to death.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you. And it's very civilized, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very civilized. People don't rob each other's homes here because more than likely you will be met with some very unpleasant consequences.
So have self-defense.
And they're not ashamed to say it.
You can defend your home and your family, you mean?
Yep.
Like in a free country?
My wife, my kids. Yep. And I moved here from California 20 years ago, and I'm so glad I did.
Wow, no kidding. Wow, California, evacuated from where in California were you?
Well, I live near Sacramento, near the capital, and it was such a great place. I grew up here in California, and it was a wonderful. I went to Europe for 5 years. I got my degree there in mechanical engineering, and then I came back. And just in those 5 years, I had felt it had changed quite a bit. But I stuck it out and stayed there until the taxes and the regulations and everything just got so expensive.
Yeah.
My sweetheart here in Chattanooga, and I decided, you know what? Time to get married to a Southern Belle and move to Chattanooga.
That is great. That's wonderful. And happily ever after, right?
Yep. 20 years later, I'm still here and just loving it here. I would never move back.
Isn't life great?
But,
and with the love of your life.
You are the best thing on the radio, and I listen to you every chance I get.
Well, you're very kind, Henry. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sounds like you're living the life.
God bless you, and say hello to your better half over there, your lady, your wife.
I certainly will. That's great, Henry. Thank you very much. That's great. See, Henry.
Back. If you ever come to Chattanooga, come visit me.
All right, I'll sound the alarm when I'm headed to Chattanooga. That's great. That's wonderful. I have friends. I know several people who were serious military actors working with the intelligence community and so on, special operators and so on, that have moved to the same area in Tennessee. They've all moved to the same area in Tennessee, and they're pals from back in the wars, and came back to the United States, and they settled in Tennessee together and have kind of created their own thing there, and it's a great story. And I'm not going to say any more about it than that. But Henry, you're in a great place, and it sounds like you're doing everything right, buddy. I appreciate the call very much. Thank you.
You have my full permission to use a reptile dysfunction anytime you want.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think I won't use it for a couple of hours at least until I get to the next place I'm going to be today. Good stuff, Henry. Fun stuff. That's great. The reptile dysfunction.
There's been a lot of negativity and dysfunction in the Senate these days.
See, there it is. There's the reptile saying the word dysfunction. And Michael Piercy knew that we had that tucked away. And Henry, it turns out we had it tucked away just for you, because we've got the reptile talking about dysfunction. How great is that?
Right.
Amazing. All right, Henry. Thanks, buddy. That's great. Let's go back to some of the other stuff that we have there. We've got, because the Democrats, they have one of the big things at this fabricated, funded left-wing circle fest that they called No Kings Day or the No Kings Rally, is that they love murder and they love violence, and there are a lot of signs, usually, but not always with women, saying, glad Charlie Kirk was murdered, was assassinated. Glad that he was killed. They call him Hitler, and they're just, they're a bloodlusty bunch. They hate a lot, and they hate almost everyone because of the mental illnesses and all of that. And they love the bad guys. They're on the side of the bad guy. Speaking of which, one of their bad guys, Mahmoud Khalil, remember this guy? Guy that lied on his application for student visas, came to the United States and started inciting jihad. Of course, the future mayor of New York is doing the same thing. In fact, since my friend Michael, do you pull that? Because Michael, I mentioned that a friend of mine who's a police officer sent me a picture of himself in front of the pot store, the marijuana store, 2 blocks from the White House. And Michael said, oh, yeah, we didn't play that soundbite from the Democrat mayoral debate the other night in New York City, where the question came up toward the end of the debate. Hey, you guys smoke pot? And they've got the jihadi, anti-Semite, communist, of course, the Mamdani, the commie, right? And he's a jihadi and a commie. They go together. It's the red-green coalition, right? And then you got Cuomo, Gropey McGropeface, the former governor, whose father was the governor, because it's like the royalty, no kings, except we elect the sons and the daughters of the former leaders, like they inherited the throne. They're talking about Chelsea Clinton running for office now. That's a tough sell, I got to say. She looks too much like Webb Hubble, as we discussed earlier. But never mind that. And of course, Curtis Sliwa, the crime fighter of the Guardian Angels, and he was once shot by gangsters in Chicago, a gangster gunman, and he was shot 5 times. Curtis Lee was. But in any case, since this marijuana dispensary 2 blocks from the White House matter came up, thanks to a law enforcement friend of mine, federal, and Michael said, yeah, we never got to that soundbite of the pot smokers in the New York City mayoral debate. And here is the commie is Mamdani, who's a jihadi. He's a dope smoker, and Curtis Sliwa got shot 5 times by gangsters. And so this was the Q and the A.
Have you ever purchased anything in a cannabis shop? And if so, what did you buy, Mr. Mamdani?
In a shop.
I have. I have purchased marijuana at a legal cannabis shop.
Okay. Mr. Cuomo?
No.
Mr. Sliwa?
When I was shot 5 times, I've had Crohn's disease, I did use medical marijuana. Yes.
Okay.
That was it. Oh, I guess that was not the answer he was hoping for. Also, it's a bit of a trick question, because have you ever bought anything in a cannabis shop? And he's asking Gropey McGropeface Cuomo, how old is Gropey? He's got to be 55 or 60 or something like that. You didn't have marijuana shops until a short time ago. But when he was a teenager, you bought pot from your friends, from your high school classmates, from your neighbors, not from a dispensary or a marijuana shop. So it's a bit of the question came up short, I've got to say, when it comes to Cuomo. And I think if you ask the question differently, because the thing is they lie very comfortably. They lie about a lot of stuff all the time. So we got that going for us. But I digress once again, because I was talking about the no kings around the country. There are 17 million of them. If they said 17 million, then the news media would say it was 17 million. The organizers said it was 7 million. There is no way they could actually calculate or count anywhere. They said they had thousands and thousands of gatherings, and they made up that, and then they made up the total number. But here is a Democrat woman in Washington, D.C., at the No Kings event. They hate Trump. They hate America. They burn the American flag. They go to the pot dispensary. And this woman has advice for the Democrat Party.
Millions of Democrats did not vote. Whose fault is that? We need to get ourselves together, and we might even need to be a little bit meaner.
We need to be meaner. Well, I don't know. You shot and assassinated Charlie Kirk, shot and wounded President Trump, tried to shoot and kill him again, built a a deer stand in a tree next to the Palm Beach airport where President Trump gets on and off of Air Force One. You rioted and burned my city, rioted and burned my neighborhood twice in Washington, D.C. Well, looted, certainly, my neighborhood where I live, looted the neighborhood where I'm sitting at this radio station right now. How much meaner can you people be? I got an idea. Stop shooting people. How about that? And you get these stupid people like this woman who's just stupid because she's a Democrat. Yeah, maybe we need to get meaner. Yeah, I guess, hopefully bring it in someplace short of all-out civil war in the United States. How about that? And then there was an interviewer talking to the woman, asked about Charlie Kirk, asked a protester about Charlie Kirk, who has been assassinated. And, that's about as mean as it gets. Get a rifle, find a rooftop, assassinate somebody. Doesn't get a lot meaner than that. But, hey, what about Charlie Kirk?
Recently, with Charlie Kirk being assassinated,
He's a piece of garbage. Of course we were mean. I am so tired of people saying, oh, but, it's a terrible thing. No, Hitler is dead. I'm glad Hitler's dead. Evil people have no place in my world.
In my world. My world. Evil, he was Hitler. Charlie Kirk was Hitler. You guys are murdering 1 million babies a year, harvesting their organs. I think Dr. Yusuf Mengele would be thrilled with what you're doing today. And while they were exterminating the Jews, you're exterminating 40% of the black population in city after city, just in the womb. And you call that choice. Choice. You know who else made a choice? The Socialist Workers' Party of the actual Adolf Hitler, not a mild-mannered Christian man who was on the side of America and raising his children with his loving bride. But pay no attention to that. Pay no attention to that. But the Democrats, they love jihadis. They're going to elect a dope-smoking communist jihadi to be the mayor of New York. There's a lot of pressure being applied to Curtis Sliwa right now, including the front page of the New York Post, for Curtis Sliwa to drop out of the mayoral race in New York in the hope that then it'll just be down to two candidates for mayor of New York, the jihadi, Mamdani, the jihadi, who is far and away the front runner, runaway lead in the polls. And then, of course, the son of the governor and the governor himself, Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, and including the New York Post, Democrats and Republicans are saying, hey, Curtis Sliwa, drop out of the race. We don't want the commie to be in charge of New York City. And, of course, the meme, and I don't know if we've shared this meme on our social media, of O.J. Simpson standing next to Nicole Brown Simpson, and they labeled O.J. Simpson as Mamdani and Nicole Brown Simpson as New York City, because that's where we're going. That's where this is going, for sure. And at the same time in New York, the Democrats waved in Mahmoud Khalil, who's an aspiring terrorist who supports jihad and worldwide intifada, just like Mamdani does. And Mahmoud Khalil announced that he has a very important hearing scheduled, and it's happening today, the Federal Court of Appeals, where arguments will be made to address whether the Trump administration can re-detain and deport him. And the Democrats are fighting for him. Now, he lied on his application for a student visa about his affiliations with terrorist organizations hell-bent on the destruction of the state of Israel. And of course, you want to deport jihadis that come here lying on their student visas. Then they get to campuses and they start inciting violence against the Jews. And then they call everybody else Nazis. Well, they defend the actual flippin' Nazis that walk among us. Aren't they amazing? And that's it. So he's got a hearing today. Adds a separate deportation effort is underway through an immigration process he describes as completely controlled by the Trump administration based on fabricated and pretextual claims about his green card application. That's right, he's got a green card too. And Khalil is vowing to fight the proceedings in court. That's happening today. And the entirety of the Democrat Party is fighting on behalf of Mahmoud Khalil, who lied to get into the country, lied to get a green card, and then incited violence against the Jewish people in the form of genocidal Islamist lunacy, and the Democrats are fighting vociferously on his behalf. Aren't they amazing? And, also they had at the No Kings rally, that there was at least one woman with a sign that we need to free, let out of jail, Luigi Mangione, free Luigi Mangione, jail Trump. These people shouldn't be allowed to drive. They certainly shouldn't be allowed to own guns. They shouldn't be. They should be on the no-fly list. They shouldn't be able to fly on commercial airlines. These people are mentally ill. There is an epidemic of mental illness in the United States. We just call them the Democrat Party for short.
Evil people have no place in my world.
In my world, everyone's a pony, and they all eat rainbows and poop butterflies.
There was another radical leftist tearing up a Turning Point USA table. This one, Illinois State University. And it's a faculty member at Illinois State University attacked some young students at their Turning Point USA table. And it's okay. He won't get any jail time or anything. Let's grab a quick phone call. We don't have a lot of time, but let's go to Scott, calling from the great state of Florida, where sensible people live. Scott, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris, how are you, man?
I'm great, Scott. What do you know?
Hey, buddy, listen, I wanted to tell you something. I was talking to that nice lady that answered the phone there. Hey, I wanted to share something with you real quick, man. I just wanted to tell you thank you for always showing up. We had a really hard time the last year or so with some health problems. And, man, every time I get in the car or I would go to the hospital or whatever, you would always make me laugh. It's weird when you listen to people on the radio and stuff. You know, you kind of feel like you're their friend. I mean, not to sound weird, but it's nice. I know with the TV show and everything, you're probably exhausted, but there are people, millions of people, man, that wait for you to come on there to make them laugh. And I just wanted to tell you, I really genuinely, I'm just one of the quiet voices out here that love you, man. And I can't thank you enough.
You are very, very kind. That is so kind. And I have 100 questions for you, hospital in difficult times, but thank you.